Hey guys, what's up here? I am going to be reviewing The Gunslinger by Stephen King. It's the first in the Dark Tower series. I haven't read a lot of Stephen King. The only one from him that I've actually read would be Pet Cemetery, and I saw that movie when I was a kid and it just freaked me out. To this day, I get a little bit of a shiver in my spine when I hear the name Rachel or Zelda. It's probably one of the reasons why I've never really gotten into the Zelda games, just because that name freaks me out. But it is that I actually enjoyed that movie because of that. That I saw it as a kid and it freaked me out, and it still gives me the goosebumps today, like I said. But I've seen it since. Not as scary, but coming from the view of a kid, it's freaking weird. The book is creeped me out. I couldn't read it without being at night. I couldn't read it, so I had to read it during the day for the most part. But that's a good book, and I'll probably review that later. But today we're talking about The Gunslinger, like I said, a vastly different King book than Pet Cemetery, and I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know what to expect really, but this isn't the book that I expected. Um, and I'm not gonna. It's not a bad book by any means, but like I said, it's just not the one I expected. So a little summary about the book. I read the revised version. Um, King did say, or he did revise the book from what it originally was when it was published for the first time. Um, and I thought it was, like I said, it was enjoyable. I'm not really sure. Well, in the book, he says that the changes he made, he added a little bit and he polished it up a little bit. So I don't think it's too different from what was originally published. But so that's cool. But I guess he just did those revisions because he just felt like he was a better writer now, and he could really, make it what he wanted it to be finally. Um, but like I said, I enjoyed it. Um, let's see if I can actually pick the book up really quickly, and I'll read you the back, or essentially what it's about. Um, it says in a desolate reality, one that mirrors our own in frightening ways, a lone and haunting figure known as Roland, who is the gunslinger, makes his way across the endless sands in pursuit of a sinister, dark-robed mystery man, and that's the man in black. Roland is the last of his kind, a gunslinger, like I mentioned before, charged with protecting whatever goodness and light remains in his world. A world that moved on, as they say, and the only way he can possibly hope to save everything is to first outwit and confront this man in black, then make him divulge his many arcane secrets. For despite the countless miles he's already traversed, Roland knows these will merely be his initial steps on his spellbinding and soul-shattering quest to locate the mystical nexus of all worlds, all universes, the Dark Tower. So that gives you a little brief summary of what the book aims for, or kind of what it's about. Um, um, I'll give my brief initial reactions, and I'll get into spoiler territory later. But don't worry, I'll warn you before I do that if you decide to read it yourself. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what it's about. Um, at the beginning of the book, King introduces Roland, the gunslinger. He meets this guy, and they have a little bit of a conversation. Basically, I'll boil down the book to you right now. It's basically the gunslinger following in the tracks of the man in black, trying to catch up to him, trying to kill him, and figure out where the Dark Tower is, or how to get there, or whatever. And along the way, he meets certain people, has conversations with them, and a little bit about the gunslinger's past is revealed. And that's essentially what the whole book is. There's a couple of action moments in flashbacks and in current book time, and those are enjoyable. The dialogue that King writes between the gunslinger and um, people he meet is interesting. The descriptions King writes are good. No fault there. Stephen King is a good writer, obviously. Uh, like I said, I haven't read a lot of them, but he's generally known as a good writer. He's got a couple, from what I hear, that aren't that great, but that's that's perfectly fine. I mean, I enjoy most of his film adaptations, that have been made from his works. I've seen a lot more of those than I've read of King. I've seen It, the old one and the new one. I've seen um, Cujo, and a couple others that I don't really want to list here, but it was an enjoyable read. Uh, I kind of I decided to read this because of the movie, having heard that it was just not that good. I haven't seen it yet. I decided to read this instead. Maybe when it comes out on Blu-ray or DVD or something, or maybe to Netflix, I'll catch it then and compare it to this, which I'm sure will be completely different, based on what I've heard and reviews about the movie. But the whole time I was picturing the characters, I imagined Idris Elba as the gunslinger and Matthew McConaughey as the Man in Black. And so I couldn't really. I hate when that happens. I couldn't really get the uh, those representations of the characters out of my head. But it was fine. It was enjoyable. Like I said, it is what it is. Um, but I mean, there's worse things you can have than casting Idris Elba as a character in your mind. The Matthew McConaughey too. He's not horrible. He's a pretty good actor. I enjoyed Interstellar. Most people did, but whatever. But yeah, it's an enjoyable read. I definitely recommend it if you're okay with a book that doesn't have a certain, like, a high level of action. If you're just someone who can enjoy a lot of a decent amount of dialogue and descriptions of scenery, that's fine. And flashbacks, the book does have a lot of flashbacks to Roland's life as a child, how he grew up. We learn a little bit about that, just to inform his character a little bit. Um, and that's understandable that we have those. That's fine. Those don't bother me. Um, so okay, spoilers for those who don't really want to read it but want to know what happens. Essentially, I'll walk you through that right now. I'll give everyone a little bit of time to just go away if they don't want to hear it, because I'm about to spoil the whole book for you. So just go away if you don't want to hear that. Um, okay, so basically the book starts off with introducing Roland. He goes, he's trying to catch up to the Man in Black. He goes to, I guess it's a farm. He goes to, and he talks with this guy. I get the sense that, like, I know there's supposed to be a lot of um, uh, not clues, but little Easter eggs for those who have read more Stephen King novels. I feel like this guy that he meets at the farm could be an Easter egg for those who have read more Stephen King. I'm not sure, but he seems like he would be. But he seems like a generally cool guy. They talk for a little while. Roland gives a little bit of his background, and everything's fine and good. And then I guess his horse dies, and he leaves him. Roland's horse dies, and he just continues walking. And then he talks about, well, he has a conversation about a town he just came from, and he tells about what happened there to the farmer. Um, and basically, what had happened at this town was that the Man in Black had left a trap for Roland the Gunslinger. And the town, it's really weird. The town, like, was very religious, except for a couple of few peoples, or a couple of people. Like, the bar, the owner of the bar, she's mainly Roland's uh, introduction to the town, and then he meets a couple other people, and he mainly stays with the woman at the bar, and they like screw a couple times or whatever, and it's a comfort to her more so than Roland. Uh, Roland does it, and I think Roland has sex with her, Um, more so for her than him. Um, be, um, that's the vibe I get from that. I don't know what more there is to get. But there's probably something I'm missing about that relationship, but I don't know. And then like the man in like basically the trap that the man in black had left for Roland um was that the crazy religious figure lady was pregnant with the man in black's kid, which is really weird. And Roland speaks with her about it, and like he threatens the kid if she doesn't tell him where the man in black's gone. And she does, and the kid dies instantly there for weird. And then like the town turns on him, and they like go and start trying to kill him. And even the barmaid that he was screwing around with starts to attack him too. And he has to kill everyone in the town. Basically, everyone's dead. He kills them all, and that's one of the action scenes I'm talking about that happened. And that's pretty good. Well, it's messed up, but it's like a pretty good action scene. And so, but the Man in Black had also left a little trap for the bar maid. Let me see if I can remember her name really quickly. Pick up the book. What is her name? Instead of just calling her barmaid, Allie. Yep. And basically, this dude named the Man in Black had brought this guy back to life, and after he died or whatever, brought him back to life, and that's one of the other traps that he set for. Well, he didn't set it for Roland. He set it for Allie. Um, Basically, where if she were to ask him what the afterlife was like, um, he would tell her. If she said this word, he would tell her, and it would basically cause her to go insane. And she eventually does give in and ask, and that's one of the reasons why she attacks Roland, because she's gone out of her mind or whatever. And so from there, the Man in Black continues on from the farmer's house. The Man in Black continues on, and he meets this boy named Jake. And basically, Jake is who I guess the kid in the movie. But anyways, Jake is essentially from our world. I think from reading it, I think the Man in Black killed Jake in our world and brought him to their world somehow. I'm not sure how he did that, but that's what I think he did. And he leaves him there for Roland to find on this journey to catch up with him. And Roland meets him at the house, and he like faints, and the boy takes care of him for a little bit, and then they agree to they like get rid of some demon or whatever that's hidden below the house, and Roland takes the demon's skull as like a charm or whatever. I don't know how else to describe it. But he takes the skull, and they leave, and then they're like trying to catch up to the Man in Black together. But and Roland develops like a kind of fondness for the boy or Jake, and it's it just develops as a fondness, and then when they finally catch up to well, not catch up to the Man in Black, but just have a conversation with the Man in Black through like some sorcery he has, the two, it becomes clear that Roland is going to kill Jake to get closer to the Man in Black. Or not necessarily to get closer, but Jake may become an obstacle to catching up to the Man in Black, and Roland will have to make that decision, but about killing him to get closer to the Man in Black, I think is how it is. But anyway, yeah, have that conversation, and then throughout all of this, we're having flashback to Roland's life. He and how he grew up. It's really interesting. King writes it well. You learn about his mother and his father, and then his teacher. And Roland, and in order to become, I guess, a man, Roland has to fight and beat his teacher. And the reason, and he chooses a hawk as his weapon against his teacher in the battle to become a man. And I guess this was supposed to be unexpected. Maybe this is an Easter egg too, but I didn't really understand why it mattered that he chose the hawk. But he chose the hawk, and it helps him defeat. Well, he chose the hawk as his weapon, and it helps him defeat his teacher. Um, and then we also learned that the Man in Black was actually a lover that his wife had, and Roland didn't know it at the time. His dad didn't know, um, but Roland didn't know it at the time. And then, and through a revelation, we learned that that's actually who he was. His mother's lover was a Man in Black. She was having an affair on his wife, on his dad with the Man in Black. Um, but like I said, after the revelation about Jake, uh, they continue going on towards catching up with the Man in Black, and they meet at well, they don't meet, but they discover these railroad tracks. Um, and then they follow those for a while, and then they find a cart, one of those old time railroad carts, and they get on it, and it helps them go faster or whatever. And then they meet up with these weird mutant things, and they almost kill Jake, but the gunslinger saves them or whatever. And then and then Jake's like, no, I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to go with you anymore. And then Roland's like, okay, whatever. And then Jake's like, no, yeah, I'll go with you. I don't want to stay here in this creepy mountain, dark uh, place or whatever. This railroad station or whatever inside the mountain. It's creepy or whatever. And so Jake's like, all right, I'll go with you instead. But Jake knows that the gunslinger is going to kill him, but he goes anyways. Maybe he's hoping that he won't, but he kind of feels like the gunslinger will kill him. And the gunslinger thinks he will kill him too, or he doesn't know yet and I don't think he knows yet for sure if he'll kill him or not, but he thinks he might, at least. And so they do come upon the thing, upon the Man in Black, and Idris Elba does end up, letting Jake fall off this cliff or whatever. Instead of actually helping him, he chooses to go on towards finding the Man in Black. But I don't necessarily think that Jake's dead. I think he'll come back in some ways because we've already seen him die in his world. And I think if they were going to make it, this isn't in the concept of the book, but if they're going to make a movie with Jake in it, and I feel like he's gonna have more of a bigger role to play, especially considering that the movie, I guess, is an amalgamation of all the books. So I feel like Jake wouldn't even be in it if that were the case. So I think he will come back. In what way I don't know, but I think he will be back. Oh, and I forgot to mention this weird part where a succubus entices Jake and messes with his mind, and the gunslinger intervenes and then goes to the succubus himself and um, talks with her and has sex with her to reveal information about the gunslinger. My camera just fell. But anyway, I think to reveal. Sorry about that. To reveal information about the Man in Black. Roland goes to her and he finds out certain things or whatever about the Dark Tower and the Man in Black. And so after Jake dies, or kinda dies, I don't know, we'll see. Um, the Man in Black, or the gunslinger, actually meets the Man in Black, and he tries to kill him, but it doesn't work out. And they end up having a conversation between each other, and it seems like it only takes maybe a couple days that they're talking to each other. But actually, they're outside of, I guess, time somehow. I guess thanks to the Man in Black's magic. And then he reveals certain things to him, like he was his mother's lover, things like that. He helps find out. Um, and then let's see if I remember right. And then once they come out of time, the Man in Black is uh, uh, a skeleton, but I think it's just a trick. I don't think the Man in Black's dead either. You know, he's basically just a skeleton, and Roland has aged a little bit. And like he sees like while they're in the trance, he sees like the universe and all this trippy stuff. It's pretty crazy. But King writes it well. It's really crazy. But that's and then like he just and I think from there Roland's going to try and find the dark tower. And then I guess in the next book that's basically what it's going to be. I'm not sure. It's called The Drawing of the Three, and he has to draw these three. I think it's words. Let me see if I can. I can't remember correctly, but that's going to be like he has to do these three things or draw these three words out to help find the Dark Tower. But like I said, it was an enjoyable read, just not what I expected. If you're someone who needs a lot of action, or if someone who needs a lot of action in the book, or more than a couple of things to happen in the book, um, definitely you probably wouldn't like this. It stuff happens, it's just not a lot of it. Some parts I can see some people saying, "Oh, this is dull, this is boring," um, but overall it was a really good book, and I enjoyed it. And I know I've said that a lot, but I did. So if you're someone who can just deal with the not so great action moments, there are a couple. But if you can deal with like a book that isn't majorly featured or features that type of writing, then you'll be fine. If not, I wouldn't recommend it. But I'm intrigued to see where they go from here. Um, I don't know, like, or where the books go from here. I'm not sure. I'm just intrigued to see what happens. I really don't have a lot of expectations, uh, just be, just because it's so different from what I expected it to be, anyways. Um, Based off of reading Pet Cemetery. It doesn't. I'm not really scared. There wasn't really any scary moments in it at all. Uh, it was just overall a good book. Um, so I do recommend reading it. Like I said, if you're if you can just deal with the duller moments, not necessarily boring or whatever, but just not as exciting moments to get through the whole book. Um, but I'm excited to see where it goes. Overall, I give it like a 3 out of 5, just based off of the whole thing so far. But hopefully the next one gets better. Not to say that this was bad, but hopefully it builds upon what this one's already established and just goes to like 4 or 5 from here. But I'm looking forward to reading those. Again, guys, thanks for watching and listening. I'll probably I don't know if the Drawing of the Three will be the next book that I'll read, but um, I will read it soon, and I'll get that review up. Hopefully soon after. It's been like a month since I read The Dark Tower. I just wanted to give it a little time to think about it for a little while before I did review it. But I enjoyed it, like I said. And that the next book I read, I'm not sure what it'll be, but as soon as I review that book, I'll probably read The Drawing of the Three and give my review from there. But overall, guys, thanks for watching. I do recommend it, like I said. Thanks for watching, and look out for more videos. Have a good one.